Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Cheryl Selman, and welcome to What Women Must Know, a show empowering you with truthful information so you can make the most informed decisions possible for your health and well-being. And I am so glad you're joining me today because, as always, I have a wonderful guest with me that will be sharing a topic that's really quite important for all of us to understand. Before we go there, I want to welcome anyone who is listening for the very first time, and I certainly invite you to come back every week. It may be easier for you to go directly to my website, which is drcherylselman.com, or my Facebook page, which is What Women Must Know, because I post every show there, and if you opt into my website, I send my show out to you. In fact, I've got two shows on Progressive Radio Network. One is every Saturday at 11 a.m., and that's called The Love Code. And The Love Code is more of a spiritual focus where we interview leading authors and spiritual teachers and inspirational people to help us on our spiritual journey of greater love, peace, and harmony in our life. So hope to have you come visit me on the website, visit me on my page, Facebook page, or just tune in every Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time here. So let me first of all introduce my guest. We're talking about the extraordinary new science of the immune system with Matt Richtel. And Matt is a reporter at the New York Times. He received the Pulitzer Prize for national reporting for a series of articles he expanded into his first nonfiction book, A Deadly Wandering, which was published in 2014. A New York Times bestseller, A Deadly Wandering tells an intimate story of a fatal car crash and was named a Best Book of the Year by the San Francisco Chronicle, Christian Science Monitor, Kirkus Reviews, Winnipeg Free Press, and Amazon. Matt has appeared on NPR's Fresh Air, PBS NewsHour, and in other major media outlets. And he lives in San Francisco, California, and he's my guest today. So let me welcome Matt Richtel to the show today. Hello, Matt.
Hi, how are you?
I am excellent. Thank you so much. I am so looking forward to our interview, and congratulations on your new book, which is titled An Elegant Defense, The Extraordinary New Science of the Immune System. So quite a love, a love of labors here, because it's quite an extensive book, quite a large book, and you've gone into great detail. So I first of all,
this is my aim. Large books. That's what I'm going for.
Well, you're doing a
Paperweights.
great job. You're achieving that.
Go big or go home.
To get into to talk about the immune system and to make it an engaging book takes a lot of credit. So you've been acknowledged by many reviewers as an intriguing read, a captivating read. So congratulations for doing that, because it's not always easy talking about a subject like the immune system and engage people who are the lay audience out there. So, good for you. I appreciate that, because it's a big topic.
I see I don't think I'm entitled to anyone's attention. If you're not a good storyteller, people. I always say this: if I'm not a good storyteller, you shouldn't pick up my book. I owe that to you. So I've tried to tell the story, the science of the immune system, in a really responsible way, to tell it through human stories, so that because who wants to read a white paper? That's a snoozer.
So are you still working for the New York Times? I mean, yeah. New York Times.
I work for the Times. I'm based in San Francisco. I write about health and science issues, and occasionally some issue is so provokes me, so piques my muse that, I pick up my pen and start climbing the Everest that is the idea of writing a book. So that's what happened here.
Well, I can appreciate the task ahead of you. So let's jump in and talk about the immune system because it is a huge topic. It covers so many areas. And I'd like you to start, if you may, by just helping to define what the immune system is.
Yeah, it's where we kind of have to start. And I want to start by saying that I brought to this book a lot of misconceptions about the immune system. And this is despite the fact that my wife is a doctor, and I think we each carried with us some kind of basic ideas that came from long-standing, I guess, mythology about the immune system that has been dashed or rewritten in part by really extraordinary new developments. So what is the immune system? Well, to begin, let me tell you what I thought it was. I thought it was this zealous, powerful police force that aimed to destroy anything foreign that tried to get inside of us. That was my misconceived, ill-conceived, problematic definition going into this endeavor. Does that resonate at all? Does that mythology ring like something you recall from your childhood?
Absolutely. I think that is a conception that so many people have. It's a part of us that goes after anything that's trying to invade us.
Yeah. Well, it turns out that that's actually it turns out that's quite wrong. And to illustrate why, I have to tell you a little bit about the world that the immune system exists in. So if you look all around you, and if your listeners look around their homes, their desks, their car wheels, their cell phones, and certainly on their skin, there are microbes everywhere. Do you remember the movie The Matrix?
Oh, my God. I've only watched it 15 times.
Okay. You mean all the ones and zeros that were everywhere, and the people in the know realized that there were digits all around them? Well, analogously, there are microbes all around us, and they are in us. Ones and zeros, parasites, viruses, bacteria, but most of them would do us no harm. And the reason that idea is so crucial to understand is that when you think about what your immune system is designed to do, you have to realize that were it to go out and try to destroy everything foreign in our midst, we would be scorched earth. We would be piles of dead cells on the floor. So the core notion of the immune system is not a war machine. That is the very first principle that I want to communicate. Am I making sense?
Oh, absolutely.
So, shall I soldier on?
Please do. We're waiting
All
with
right.
bated breath.
Okay. Well, I seek permission, not forgiveness. So instead, given all these microbes, and they're not just on us, they're in us. Our gut is filled with foreign bacteria, foreign organisms. Half the cells in our body, mostly in our gut, our microbiome, are foreign. Given that these foreign organisms are all around us, these non-human organisms, the real job of the immune system is to try to get along or cooperate with the world in as harmonious a way as possible while, and this is very important, while reserving the capacity to do tremendous violence. It's really a quite violent affair when necessary if our body comes under attack from one of those terrible pathogens, say polio, the flu, smallpox, although eradicated. So what does this add up to? In a nutshell, I would describe your immune system as the powerful love child of a bouncer and a ballet dancer. Your immune system has the capacity to be tremendously violent, to do terrible harm, to evil, not evil, I don't want to anthropomorphize them that much, to dangerous infection and pathogen. But equal to that is a side of the immune system that seeks to tiptoe as carefully and gently around the world as possible so that it does as little collateral damage to the world and your own tissue as it can. It is a bouncer and a ballet dancer, and your goal in this lifetime is to help it be balanced. That is what your immune system is and your relationship to it.
You know, that's such an interesting insight because it's a metaphor, really, of the greater world outside the body as well as what's going on inside. Our real goal, and what it's teaching us, is that our real goal is to live in harmony and to find ways that we can support all the diversities within us in a harmonious way, but also how we should all be living in the external world. It's almost as though the inner is an expression, a reflection of the outer. And we need to learn, because we need to change our paradigms on all levels for us to really achieve the greatest level of peace, harmony, health, success, well-being. And if we can begin to understand that our immune system is designed to help maintain harmony, its first goal, and if there was some event, some incident where we were out of harmony, to address that, take care of it, so we can restore balance and homeostasis again into the system. Does that sound right?
Not only right, but you should be writing my jacket copy. But I want to say this book, An Elegant Defense, is named partly to articulate this fiercely elegant network inside of us, but also to dovetail on what you said. The immune system has an enormous amount to teach us about how to live our lives. If you think of the immune system's longevity, it's been around in essentially the form it's in now inside of us, and we haven't gotten into the particulars, but it's been around for about 480 million years. We share its key principles with a shark. Then you have to say, well, if it's been this successful, what can it teach us? And you're right, it has a lot to teach us about how to survive with each other as organisms. It has a lot to teach us about erring on the side of cooperation and harmony and being very judicious with the use of force, or, if you want to put it in another way, hostility or anger. The other meaning of An Elegant Defense in this book, and I suppose I should leave something of intrigue for those who would like to read it, is that I tell you about the life's lessons the immune system teaches well beyond the contours of your body. And they are stark and they are powerful, and you have hinted at some of those.
Wow. Yes, it's a paradigm shift that's going on now as we understand more and more about what the immune system is and where it is located. You know, one of the challenges for people in the past has been to understand, where is this system called the immune system located? It was something that seemed to be ethereal. You can't quite put your finger on where it is. You know where your spleen is. You know where your kidney is. You know where your endocrine glands are. But where is the immune system? So can we go there and kind of explain about that?
This is your show. We can go anywhere. I have sadly, for better or worse, I've gotten to the place of no boundaries. So you lead, I shall follow. But let's talk about that idea. So the immune system. Well, first we can go back in history. There's a bit of this, not a ton of history in the book, but some of it. There was, 16th or 17th century. There was one of the many crazy early immunologists following a muse, and happened to cut up a deceased dog and noticed that there was this, what he called milky white veins in the dog, and the scientist didn't understand what those were because he understood veins or arteries to contain red blood cells, our red blood. What was this white stuff? Well, the white stuff turns out to be white blood cells, and that alone is an oversimplification, but it's a morass, a grouping of cells that have a very special place in our body. And the word ethereal is actually kind of nifty that you chose. But what he discovered is that there is a second circulatory system. So one place your immune system is, one place, but not exclusively, that your immune system is in this second circulatory system that courses around your body carrying immune cells of whole varietal, lots of different kinds of immune cells. But, and this is really critical, and it goes to your use of the word ethereal, the immune system enjoys a privilege unlike any other part of the human body. Those cells can move well outside this lymphatic system. Lymph is your white blood cells, your immune cells, and they course through tissue, and they are doing surveillance everywhere, constantly behaving part bouncer, part ballet dancer, sniffing out for problems, looking to repair tissue. Why do I say that they enjoy a status unlike any other? Because most cells in the body stay in their area, within their boundaries. A pancreatic cell stays largely in the pancreas. It might wander off it occasionally, trying to jump from ocean to land or something. A heart cell may stay in the heart. Other kinds of tissue will stay in their area. But this ethereal network is in effect everywhere. And there are cells, just to go even further, even within the specialized cells of particular organs, there are transmitters and communication centers and nubs and nodes and molecules capable of picking up and sending signals to and from more pronounced immune cells. What am I saying? I am saying that the immune system is everywhere. It is the river that runs through all of human health and longevity. How'd I do, Doctor?
That was great because, it just brings to mind, it's an intelligence. I agree with you. I think it's wonderful to understand it's an intelligence that we have within us that is designed to support our ability to survive and thrive. And that word again, homeostasis and balance, keep the system functioning in balance. But, what an intelligence we have, we house, however you want to say it.
I don't think you can understate how marvelous in the true meaning of that word. There's so much exaggeration that goes on these days, but what I have discovered about our elegant defense is that it is one of the most marvelous or even miraculous systems on the planet that we know of. Its capacities are extraordinary.
And we have really taxed it, which I'm sure we'll get into, to the ways that we've taxed this. We've taxed our bodies so that immune system is just burnt out, like the majority of people are burnt out and stressed out and can't function optimally in our society.
Yeah, I mean, I will ask, is that where you want to go next? Do you want to hear about the characters in these books? Do you want to hear about more about the science?
Yes, let's talk about the characters because we'll get to that one character in the immune system play that goes to school to learn how to be a good immune cell, goes into the thymus. Let's talk about those cast of characters.
Oh, you mean the cells? You don't mean the human beings in the book. You want to hear about the medical cases or the
Let's
or
start
the
by
cells?
just getting. Let's talk more about the immune system and the different players of
Okay.
the immune system.
Okay, got it. Yes, there are some really powerful characters in this book. 2 women with autoimmunity and 2 men with different conditions. And now I understand. You want to hear more about the pure science of of what's inside of us.
Yes, I think that I really want people to understand more about their immune system, and we can talk about some of the people in the book that are really ways to understand and elucidate what we're saying. But I think we first need to understand more about how our immune system operates and what it's made of.
So let me start with another misconception I had. I thought there was an immune system, but you would be forgiven if you didn't know this too, because the learning was so late. There are effectively 2 immune systems in your body. They are very much linked, but they are very distinctive, and the distinction's important, and the distinction helps explain, among other things, why vaccines are so important, and we can come to that. But let me tell you about these 2 immune systems. The first was the last discovered. The first is called the innate immune response. And an innate immune response is what happens in the first moment that your body is under attack. So you can think of an attack as the inhalation of a particle into your lungs, of a pathogenic particle. You can think of an insult as stepping on a stick that has bacteria on it. You can think of inhaling a flu virus from someone. You can think of eating some food that creates a parasite in your body. All of these things are met initially by what's called the innate immune response. So may I elaborate on that?
Please do.
All right. So the innate immune response involves these cells that are effectively, let me give you another image that I use in the book to explain this. I think of the book, I call our bodies the festival of life. Think of your body as a giant festival, a raucous Mardi Gras or cocktail party going on inside of your skin, in which all kinds of cells and molecules are hanging out. And circling this party is this very elegant defender, or these very elegant defenders. And when the innate immune system picks up that there has been an insult, that's the broad term for combining an infection or an injury, these are on the scene within milliseconds. They are tailored to pick up oftentimes through smell, through touch, through a recognition that something has entered the body that has the telltale signs of being a pathogen. A pathogen, this is, again, some people this might be simplistic, but for me at least I had to learn all these words. A pathogen is a microbe that would do us harm. It would like to have us for lunch. Most microbes, most things around us would not do us harm. But when the innate immune system has the capacity to pick up these molecular signals, these molecular traits that are consistent with a pathogen. And there's actually a really neat little story, if you want to get into the weeds for a second, of what the innate immune system has on it to detect the signs of a pathogen. What it has, an innate immune cell has something on it called a toll-like receptor. Too much weeds here? Should I explain about the toll-like receptor?
No, let's go and explain it all. It's fascinating.
All right. So I love this story because these are just series of things that I learned that turn out to be great cocktail party conversation. This was a very late development made out of Yale, and the toll-like receptor picks up one of a handful of telltale signs of a pathogen. For example, certain bacteria have flagella. Those are tails that help them swim. And when it picks up this flagella, it says, red alert, possible invader. What I love about this story is when one of the world's leading immunologists told me about toll-like receptors. He's a guy who helped discover it. I thought, oh, toll, T-O-L-L, that must mean like a toll bridge. And he laughed, and everybody laughs over this story in immunology because they're kind of geeky, and I guess so am I. But it turns out that toll came from some German researchers who, I think it was a woman who discovered this. She saw it first in a fly, and when she saw that it picked up this pathogen, she said, and forgive my accent, she goes, das was toll, which means that was awesome. So the receptor toll doesn't refer to a toll bridge. It refers to an awesome receptor. So there's your immunology trivia. I promise much of this book is not that geeky. In any case, that's just a mere sentence. So you have the innate cells, and they show up, and they give a very general defense. This can involve poisons, toxins, explosions. They are doing a lot of damage to what they deem as a foreign entity, but they are also beginning the process of rebuilding. And this is why, if you've ever been cut, you might notice that in the days after you're cut, the area of the wound appears larger than it was when you first cut it. You would think, well, why is that? That's because they're in effect clearing the landscape to rebuild the tissue. And your immune system is involved in all of it. But that is not the end of the immune system's response. That's only the generic first responders. The next part is called the adaptive immune system. And again, I want to pause and make sure I'm not being too long-winded here. So far, so good?
Oh, no, you're doing great. Keep going, by all means.
Okay, all right. So we discovered the innate immune system quite late in this process, only the last 20 or so years, and that reflects the fact that an important facet of immunology, which has long been a backwater, all of this has been happening at a molecular level, and we did not have the technology to see what was going on. That's why this is the moment for a book or a conversation like that, because we're now seeing what's happening. Previously, though, we did chip away at this other part of the immune system called the adaptive immune system. This is the one people often think about when they think about the immune system because it involves the T cells and the B cells. Can I presume that I'm going to define them? Do you think I could presume the audience has heard about those cells?
I'm sure that my audience has heard about them, but probably doesn't know what they are nor what they do.
And nor did I when I began this journey, and only because of my brilliant, wonderful doctor wife did I even have a chance. So a T cell and a B cell are really as miraculous a part of this system as you can imagine when you understand their origin, and I'll come to that. But in brief, these are cells that have the capacity to attack a particular bacteria or virus or parasite with insane, incredible genetic precision. They, rather than attacking in a generic sense, rather than, say, coming to there's so many trite metaphors. I'll pick any one. Let's say your innate folks are your police force or your bouncer. These are your special ops, and they are capable of intensely refined combat against a very specific pathogen, not just a generic flu, but a kind of, and this is getting into some, just like subtype, a serotype, a tiny niche version of a pathogen. Why is this so important? Well, bugs are not generic. In fact, they mutate all the time. Our body has to be capable of fighting not just the generic idea of a pneumonia, but of a very specific subtype of it. And this is where the T cells and B cells come in. Now, you're a doctor. You've probably said a number of times. I've heard it multiple times from doctors. It probably resonates with listeners. Have you ever heard your doctor say, it's going to take about 5 to 7 days before you start feeling better? Have you uttered that sentence to people before?
Absolutely.
That is the time during which your adaptive immune system is commencing its response, is building up its capacities to fight the specific nature of the pathogen. And this is very important. Involved in that process is the discovery inside the body by the immune system of the precise T cell or B cell capable of fighting that terrible infection. So the first thing that has to happen, and I'll give you an example of one way this happens, is that a cell called a dendritic cell snips off a bit of the pathogen, carries it through your lymph system, your lymphatic system, that milky white vein, to a lymph node, where it essentially shops that piece of the pathogen around and says, hey, any of you T cells know this guy? And eventually a T cell will brush up and say, I know that guy or gal, let's go get him. But the T cell has to ramp up production. And in that 5 to 7 days, there's a period in which your innate system is trying to contain the damage until your adaptive system comes to the rescue. I really feel duty-bound at this point to say something about vaccines with your permission.
You can say it with my permission, but I want you to know that I am not a supporter of vaccines to be given to the general population. So I have my position on that. So you can tread lightly on that territory if you want, but
well,
I just want you to know that
I will give you my defense of these because I feel ethically bound to tell you the science as I understand it, and then you can hang up on me or call me names or whatever you like, but I do this in the spirit of well-meaning debate and tremendous ethical journalistic effort, and then you can have your way with me.
And I just want to say, and I appreciate that, and I respect that. This is based on your research and your ethics. And I just don't want to get hung up on that in this conversation because we have so much to talk about. But
I'll just say it in brief, and then
agree to disagree on that point.
Well, we can agree to disagree, but I'll just say this in its defense: that 5 to 7 days, there are some very terrible diseases where your body simply can't mount a defense in time, like smallpox. And as a result, if you prime or pump your immune system to recognize that disease, the factories can get started more quickly. So I realize it sounds like you will have ample opportunity to rebut me. I just ask that your audience bears that in mind. This is not a vaccine book. I'm sure you're deeply informed on the issue, but that is at least, let me say this, that is at least the rationale that people use. So why don't we move on from that?
Let's move on. I think that the understanding that you're sharing about this extreme intelligence that we are. We can talk about that immune system and its function, but it's us, right? It's us. It's what we've created. Is pretty phenomenal when you think about how elegant, as you use in your title so well, really is. And before we move into some of the other issues of the immune system, can we just talk about the role of the gut as a player in our immune system? Yeah, let's talk about the gut.
So we began this conversation by talking about the world we exist in. And it's essential to think about that and to include the world that exists in us. So depending on who you ask, let's just say these numbers are still forming, but let's call it about half the cells inside your body are not self. They're not human, if you will. They are bacteria. And they exist mostly in your gut. The microbiome, which is a term many people have heard, I'll just take a second to describe it, is not exclusively the bacteria in your gut. It's the biosphere of bacteria that live on and in you, but it's largely in your gut. And for a long time, we had a gross misconception. I know I've used that word a lot, but it is just simply so, given what we're learning, that the gut and the bacteria in it were effectively sealed off from the rest of the body. So there's a lining, and very simplistically, I think of that lining like a tire lining around your gut that seals it off for the most part from the rest of your body. And inside your gut, inside your intestines, these bacteria, we have long thought, and we are right about this, play an essential role in digestion, in the leaching of nutrients, in the provision of those nutrients to the body, in the creation of excrement that gets rid of that which we don't need. But it was largely understood that we didn't want any interaction between the bacteria in our gut and our body, because we thought if that bacteria got its way into our bloodstream or into our body, that it could cause infection. And in fact, in point of fact, that is true to a large extent. One of the biggest sources of infection is urinary tract infection, which comes from movement of excrement or other bacteria from the anus into the urinary tract. But, and this is really where we're getting into the value of the microbiome in the gut. It turns out that we need to reconceptualize what the gut is. It is not merely this thing that helps digest and break down food. It is an entire community that for which our bodies are its planet. We are Earth to this microbiome. We are its tent, its hotel, its youth hostel, its municipality, its colony. Why is that idea important? Well, if you realize that, you realize it wants us to thrive. It needs us. It doesn't do any good to our microbiome if we are sick or if we die. So, what that thinking has led to is some remarkable, new, extraordinary science that begins to recognize that not only does the microbiome seek us to be healthy, but may be, well, not may, is communicating across that lining of the gut with the immune system. It is playing a signaling role in causing the bouncer to attack or the ballet dancer to tiptoe lightly or withdraw. And that is a monster revelation. And what it tells you is the more we understand the microbiome, and we are just at the beginning, the more we are going to be able to tinker with and refine our health through nutrition. How'd I do, Doc?
No, that is getting juicy now, Matt. Now we're really firing here because what we want to talk about is, which is where I would like to lead you next, is number one, what is it that has so challenged our immune system in our present time that leads to so many health conditions? And from your research, what are the key things that we need to know to bring more balance, harmony, support, strengthening, optimizing functioning of our amazing immune system?
Yeah, so there's a lot in that question, and let me just pause and break it down in my puny little brain. Well, broadly speaking, we are beginning to redefine health around the immune system. And the reason I say that is we used to think about defining health by the diseases and how to destroy them. But increasingly we're thinking about harnessing the immune system where it becomes deficient, where it is overzealous, and the extent to which we can tinker with it so as not to go after with, well, let me just back up and give an example here. Whether you take antibiotics for something or whether you take chemotherapy for cancer, you are effectively attacking the entity that has put you under threat. That is the way we have traditionally thought about medicine. That is a kind of chemotherapy. It is a kind of use of chemicals from outside of us to destroy something that is a threat. But the way we are beginning to reconceptualize the immune system is by trying to heighten its powers when necessary, or to withdraw its powers when it is too overpowering, to stop the symptoms. Just by way of example, and then we can get into what it means to balance health. Today, there are therapies for cancer called immunotherapy, and what they are aimed at doing is turning up the volume on the bouncer, empowering the bouncer so that it goes and attacks the tumor and does what it was naturally designed to do, if you will, rather than bringing in some outside chemicals to do the work. When you bring in outside chemicals, you can imagine all the collateral damage. Just think about napalm. Yeah, you may have destroyed some other human beings that you wanted to destroy. I mean, that's a bad phraseology, but you also destroyed you created scorched earth. So, we're beginning to redefine health around the immune system. But what can you do to maintain your health, and why does the immune system become imbalanced? Here, if you'll permit, I'd like to talk a little bit about autoimmune disorders, and particularly as they pertain to women.
Yes, because it's a huge epidemic, you might say, and I mean, I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's thyroiditis, so I have a history of an autoimmune condition, which is what Hashimoto's thyroiditis is, the most common form of thyroid imbalance, particularly in women. So autoimmune issues are huge now and on the rise, and probably an epidemic proportion, you could say.
I think one of the least appreciated causes of illness in our society. Two of the characters in this book Linda and Meredith are women who suffer autoimmune disorders and give us a window into this. And talking to them at times was excruciating, because when you have an autoimmune disorder, there is no pathogen to point to. There's no bad guy to point to and say, well, let's just eradicate this virus or bacteria and parasite or you'll feel better. The thing that's causing the problem is your own immune system. Now, why women? Why are women so disproportionately likely to be affected by an autoimmune disorder? Well, first of all, we don't fully know, but there are some theories that come to me from one of the women who leads the rheumatology community in the United States. And what she posits is that women probably have stronger immune systems, and there is evidence and an explanation for it in a variety of ways. Women confer immunity to babies through gestation and breast milk. Women can have more fat cells, which can lead to just simply to more immune cells. There's more immune genetic material attached to the X chromosome. When you add all this up, there's a real plus side to it, and that is that women live longer, and that may be partly because of the strength of their immune system. But the problem with that is that when you go back to the analogy of the bouncer and the ballet dancer, it can mean a more powerful bouncer. A bouncer that can overpower the ballet dancer, or a ballet dancer that can lose balance more readily. Now, there are a variety of reasons why this is happening. One of them, quite interestingly, is a byproduct of good news. The good news is we're living longer. What that means is that there's simply more time for the immune system to lose balance. There's a pretty good argument to be made that the way the immune system evolved was aimed at getting us basically through the child-rearing years and a little beyond that so that the species would survive. But at that point, should the immune system lose balance, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. Well, it is a big deal now if you live till 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, and that imbalance leads to fatigue, it leads to fever, it leads to pain. So, what to do about that? Should we go there, or where would you like to go?
Well, I have some thoughts about that, because I think we're living in a time where we have many insults and assaults on our body, from the toxins that we're exposed to, from the foods, the water, the air, from the poor quality nutrition, from the overuse of antibiotics, which has done a terrible job on altering our microbiome and creating a breakdown of the wall of the intestine, which we are now calling leaky gut, and the stress levels. And I have to add one other thing, which you probably haven't thought about, but I actually have researched and had guests talk about how our Wi-Fi world, which we are increasing exponentially day by day, is directly impacting the microbiome and altering the microbiome as though it were under attack from antibiotics. So we have such a huge combination of factors in our modern world that is devastating to the health of the body and, of course, the health of our immune system. So those are some posits that I propose, as thoughts about what's going on.
I'm with you on all of those. I don't know anything about Wi-Fi and the microbiome, but Linda, one of the characters in this book, was living quite a remarkable life. She had been she'd been a professional golfer at Stanford, gone to Stanford graduate school, was one of the first women partners. She broke a glass ceiling at Boston Consulting Group. She also drove herself in an incredible way, and the stories she tells about, wanting her ambitions and driving through, I don't mean literally driving, but driving herself through strep throat without ever getting it checked, sleeping very little, traveling, creating stress. Her family had the genetic, in no way do I mean to blame her for autoimmunity, but what you can see is that she did a number of things in her life that are the very things that lead an immune system to imbalance. And one day she woke up and her toe was easily the size of a large grape, and then her other toe, and then she was in excruciating pain, and this once proud professional golfer had to show up at her rheumatologist's office in a wheelchair and was at some risk of paralysis until, at least in her case, some pretty remarkable drugs worked. But they don't always do that. And sometimes what winds up happening, and you've alluded to this, is that, well, you don't escape fully, but sometimes taking very natural, disciplined, healthy habits can mitigate some of those circumstances.
Well, I just from that story, obviously it was a woman who paid no attention to her body, was going for goals in a corporate setting that made her disregard or even pay attention to her body. That in our patriarchal world, women are doing that to succeed, but our female bodies work in rhythms, and we can't compete in the same way as men can. Just physiologically, we are more rhythmic and cyclic. And so I just see how our culture and a person's own goals and issues and whatever they're trying to accomplish and achieve drives them to the point of exhaustion and ignoring the messages their body gives them until there is the ultimate breakdown.
Listen, two weeks ago, this book launched. And I am very aware, and the science is very clear in this book, and I know we won't get to all of it, about what happens when you stress your body and how it undermines your immune system. When you don't sleep and it undermines your immune system. I am blessed with a very understanding wife. We set aside time for this book launch. It launched with a big to-do on NPR and all kinds of fanfare. It shot up to 16 on Amazon, and all of a sudden, all the stress and sleeplessness that I promised myself I would not give into began to overtake me. And all those kinds of demonic, ambitious things that happen, despite all my efforts, began to take hold. And the Friday after the Tuesday that this happened, I came down with terrible chills that led to the flu. And no one else in the family got the flu. And it wasn't, in fairness, I was trying to do many of the things, but what it shows is just how deep and clear the connections are between stress, sleep, taking care of your body, and ultimately undermining your immune system. And, I've tried to put in place tremendous balance since then. It's not always easy, but it is essential.
It's not easy at all. Our culture drives us to exhaustion, and we get caught up in so many of the activities that are addictive in nature that drive us to exhaustion. But
yes,
that's such a big lesson that we're here to learn, and I'm sure it's one of the big messages from your book as well, because if you do not take care of yourself, if you don't understand your immune system, how important it is, the role it plays, and what it needs to be able to do the job, you are going to set yourself up to suffer from some manifestation of a compromised immune system. We're doing it to ourselves in many ways, right? I mean, you know,
in many ways. And I don't want to be cavalier. There are people who are, so many people struggling economically, struggling in single-parent families, struggling with real issues, and so I just don't want to be naive about this, but I do think that understanding the science such that you can make clear-eyed decisions, and sometimes so you can make counterintuitive decisions like saying no when you need to say no, you know, cutting off things that seem like they might serve a certain short-term goal for the preservation of your health. I think I can't say enough about what that would mean for you and then for society. And I hope that you'll find that science resonant in the book.
Well, I think you've done a brilliant job. I know we didn't get into all the stories and the metaphors that you have and examples, but you did a great job on the show today, giving people such a profound insight and appreciation for the awesomeness that we are. You know,
we are awesome,
and we're awesome, right? And inspiring.
We are so
people.
Awesome, and this book is a celebration of the hope of the human condition in many ways. It really is at its core.
And to honor that intelligence that we are, and to learn from it, as we said in the very beginning, of the importance of balance, of harmony, of cooperation, that every aspect of life that's the essence of every aspect of life, and we have to go back into that truth and restore that harmony once again within and without. And maybe as we restore it within, it'll manifest without. And, you know, vice versa. I guess it goes both ways. But certainly as we restore it within, we will feel more harmonious, we'll feel healthier, we'll feel emotionally more balanced, and that leads us to live a life that's more balanced.
Yep.
So, Matt, thank you for the hard work. We have a term. I spend a lot of time in Australia, so this term comes to mind right now. So I want to thank you for the hard yakka you put into making
what does it mean?
This book a reality.
What's a yakka?
Oh, hard work. Isn't that a great word?
Oh.
The hard yakka.
I did work hard.
You did. You had to work hard. You were a yacker from the beginning, and congratulations for the success of this book and the important message that it is bringing to the world. So I'm with you, Matt. I think you did an awesome job, and I am supporting you 100% all the way to #1 on Amazon.
From your mouth, huh?
I have a lot of influence. I just want you to know. So,
I didn't know that.
I'm with you. I'm on your team.
Go tell the people.
So I know you have to go. I know you have another interview right after this conversation. I'm going to let you off the hook and not go off the air, but I want to thank you again for being with us. And I want everyone to pick up a copy of the book, The Elegant Defense, The Extraordinary New Science of the Immune System with Matt Richtel, and go to Amazon, pick it up, or go to his site, Matt, with 2 T's, Richtel, RICHTEL.com. Matt, thanks so much for your time today.
I'm so grateful for yours. Thank you very, very much.
It's been a pleasure. And to all of you listening, thank you for your time today. And remember, always honor the wisdom of your feminine self. Bye for now.